Hello, Painful Mass here. I'm gonna make this video early. It's the ending to the series on bias and why intelligent people continue to believe in religion. When I make more bias videos, I'll just stick them in, but I thought it'd be good to make a recap video to remind myself and my viewers why I'm doing this. I'm also planning on going off and making some unrelated videos before coming back to bias stuff. There's a good basic list there, and this will sort of make the series a complete thing to watch for a while. Here's the overview of why I'm doing this. I know lots of religious people who are incredibly smart. I'm working on a PhD in math, so I see math and physics and other science PhDs who are religious. I wanted to explore how this could be possible. They ignore the very field they are an expert in when making judgments about God and religion. This series is what I came up with. If you take one thing away from this, here's what I hope it would be. Bias is human. Every single person is incredibly biased. The things you hear and see, the so-called logical arguments you construct, the evidence you think is out there for something, all of this is skewed beyond your wildest imagination. Most people know about bias, but not many people look into it very much. I hope this series has presented something that is shocking to you. If you were not shocked by this information, then, like I was when I first heard about it, then you probably didn't understand the videos, which may have been my fault. You are biased, and unfortunately you have no idea which of your beliefs are affected. That's just how it works. So, how do people get their religious beliefs? Well, other than the obvious growing up with it and hence being immersed or possibly indoctrinated, there are still those people who truly believe they looked at the evidence and then came to the conclusion that a certain religion was correct. I talked about this in the first video, but not specifically as a bias yet. It is entirely possible that these people came to the conclusion first due to effects I may explain at a later date that involve left brain, right brain interactions and a feeling of knowing the profound. Then they justified the belief, but due to memory bias, the order of events were rearranged to make more sense. In any case, somehow a religious person comes to the belief. My guess is that essentially never are the beliefs justified before believing. Now hopefully I've done enough with the bias series that at least you consider the possibility that your religious beliefs are only justified through bias. Consider it. Please. If you are unwilling to even consider that possibility, then you're a lost cause. Nothing anyone says or does will ever convince you otherwise, and you clearly have zero regard for what is true in the world and only care about protecting a belief. Now, if you are willing to consider that you're mistaken through bias, then I've essentially done my job. This was mostly all I cared about doing. Merely admitting that the possibility is way better than a huge majority of religious people I've spoken to. So what do you do about it? This is the trouble. I've sort of opened up some sort of Descartes meditations issue. I've given you reason to doubt basically everything you think you know. Now I could probably write an entire book on my epistemological idea, so this is just going to be a sketch. But now that we've doubted, how do we actually come back and reconstruct what is true from what was biased? A better first question might be, do we know anything? My answer is yes. Look around. Now you can pretend we don't understand electricity or computers or rockets, but we do. You're using a computer, we've traveled to space countless times. These are not random flukes, it works consistently. So it seems we can know something about the world. How did we come to this knowledge? Well, the scientific method. It was invented with bias in mind. Scientists know they will bias their experiments, so they need a way to avoid this. And this is my final message to you. If you admit that your beliefs could be biased, which we already established that I have no interest in talking to you if you don't admit this, so why are you still watching? Then you have a way to tell. Test them. Design an experiment that tests whether or not your belief is correct. Write the experiment down very carefully. Now give it to someone else to do, so that you are not biasing it. Don't tell them what you're testing for. Now you've almost constructed a double-blind experiment. Get the results back and try to interpret them. Now ask someone else to come up with alternate explanations. If they can, then maybe you were biased in your interpreting. You've almost been peer-reviewed now. Go back and have other people redo the experiment to validate your first outcomes. Also, redesign the experiment based on the alternate explanations, changing tiny details to control for these other explanations. If you can eradicate the alternates, then maybe your interpretation was correct. Most likely, one of the alternates were correct. This is just how it works. Do you think it wasn't shocking to realize that electrons exist? This is the basis for electricity. When you do things this way to figure out what is true rather than what you believe to be true, you have to be ready to be shocked by what you find. You might find there is no basis for your religion. That's okay. Trusting this process is how we've advanced this far, and we've found out the world is far different than what we expected and wanted to believe. If you never honestly go through this process, then that's okay too. But it doesn't matter how intelligent you are. Your beliefs are just beliefs and have no basis in reality and cannot be considered to be true. This doesn't just apply to religious beliefs. I hope people have found this series useful, and I'll add to it eventually, but I kind of want to do some other things first. If the 5 biases there right now don't convince you that you may be biased, then I doubt a few more will. Thank you for watching.